Hello, hello, hello. TM24 here, and we have a patch. We've got a balance update, and as you can tell by the cards right below me, a lot of cards have been hit. I've briefly read through it to see what was hit, but we're going to take a look at this together and see exactly what came with this patch. So, first off, let's start scrolling and let's see what we've got. Token shop updates. Okay, weekly spotlight. When a new Series 5 card is released, it will be immediately featured in its own section for its first week in Marvel Snap. Once you buy the weekly spotlight card, this section will be hidden until the next card is released. If you want the newest cards at release, here's what you've been waiting for. That is awesome. So if a new card pops up and you've got the tokens, you can go get that right away. That is going to be huge. That's going to allow you to get access to those cards right away. I love this change. Ultimate variants are some of the most epic variants in the game. We felt they deserved their own section too. Awesome. I hated seeing ultimate variants. Although they were cool, they're expensive, and I'd rather pick up a card that I don't already have. So I love seeing that they've got their own section as well. That way you're seeing 4 and 5 series cards into their own rotation for those of you who want to make your decks that much cooler. Love it. Series 4 and Series 5. This section functions nearly the same as previously, but only features Series 4 and Series 5 cards. This section will feature a card you don't own from all currently available Series 4, 5 cards and rotates every 8 hours. Series 5 cards will be added to this section once they leave the weekly spotlight. Again, awesome. It's going to fit right into that rotation, so no worries. Game board update. We made some updates to our game board. Check out the new art, okay, and FX. Seasonal series drop. Some cards have been dropped down to a lower series. Okay, here we go. So, cards dropping from 5 to 4. Ghost, Stature, MODOK. Okay, that's awesome. I've got MODOK. I don't have the other two. I'm not sure how good they are, but, okay. Series 4 to 3. Shuri, Bost, Valkyrie, Super Skrull, and Black Panther. That is going to be huge for a lot of people because you can pick up super strong cards like Shuri, Black Panther. I really enjoy Valkyrie, and Bost has been everywhere lately. So I think this is awesome. They're going to be more accessible and not going to cost you as many tokens. So that is huge. Looks like we've got some general updates here. Players that reach infinite rank will only match against other infinite rank players. I mean, that just makes sense. I feel like that should have been something from the get-go. When you tap on a card for more details in the shop or collection, the card detail screen now features artist credits, card series label, okay, and variant rarity label. I love that. So it's going to tell you how rare the variant is. It's going to tell you what series it is and give the artist a little bit of love. I think that's huge. When inspecting cards in-game, you can now flip them to see the card back in full detail. Okay. We've also updated other areas of viewing card backs to show their 3D details. I haven't been too big on, those types of things like card backs and things. I don't know if I've ever even changed mine. I haven't even changed my avatar there, so I'm not huge on it, but that's okay. After roughly 10 hours of gameplay in a day, players will stop earning Season Pass XP from gameplay for the remainder of the day. Alright, so the players that are playing a lot, they have less incentive to play? I don't know, that seems a little bit odd, but sure. Collection level track has been extended. So they extend the collection track, but then are going to stop you from earning XP. Those two things kind of seem to contradict themselves, but overall, I don't think it's going to be a huge part of it. 10 hours of gameplay is a ton. I don't know how many people are reaching that threshold anyway. I don't think I am, and I'm playing a lot. So overall, I don't think it's really a big deal here. Audio, new sound for Squirrel Girl, new location sound for Camp Lee, added VO support for Thai and Indonesian. Okay, that's cool. And then here we go. Here are the balance updates. Let's see what they have to say. In the wake of our last balance change, we saw the metagame settle into a much healthier shape than it had been before. I agree, 100%. We weren't seeing as many Shuris. We were seeing other decks crop up, and I think they addressed those, so let's see. However, we were too shallow with our adjustments to the Shuri Taskmaster decks and the Lockjaw Leech shells, both with and without Thanos, and have remained solid contenders. Today's changes aim to push both of those decks off their clear top spots. Outside of Shuri Taskmaster, the metagame is looking healthy on our internal metrics. Okay, so they're hitting Lockjaw. As you can see, it's one of our cards that has been changed. They're hitting Leech. They're hitting Shuri. So they're hitting a lot of things, and here is the first update, Shuri. Previously, 4-2 on reveal, double the power of the next card you play. Update, 4-2 on reveal, if you play your next card here, double its power. Doesn't seem too different, but let's see what they've got to say about it. We considered a number of changes to Shuri, but they all tended to ruin her current decks. Some even theoretically risked making a new monster with different parts. That's not a great risk to run when balancing a problematically strong card. The change we made today may seem small and subtle, but we expect it to be impactful and retain the same flow of play for her existing decks, which is a consistent goal in our balance philosophy. The nerf removes Cosmo's protective capacity for her target, makes single card answers like Valkyrie easier to aim, and indirectly buffs lane control elements like Professor X. We're taking a risk here in that this nerf could leave Shuri still a strength outlier. If so, we'll react quickly. Okay, so I mean, I think we see what they did, right? By forcing you to play on Shuri's lane, you know where that card's gonna wind up. So even if it's protected by armor, Valkyrie's gonna smoke it. If you wanted to pull off that Taskmaster, all of a sudden you don't have any protection. They could hit that Taskmaster with the Shang-Chi. So overall, I like what they did. It gives her play a little bit more, it makes it a little bit more predictable. You know where she's going to be playing that card. Therefore, you can have answers to it. Maybe on 4, you're expecting a Shuri and you can Spider-Man that lane and all of a sudden their Shuri's wasted. At least for that turn. Maybe you then lock it down with Professor X. So overall, I like the change. I love the fact that they're still keeping an eye on her and are willing to react quickly depending on how this plays out. So overall, I feel confident that this is going to be a pretty good change for Shuri, and I'm excited to see how she plays now. Next up, we've got Leech. Previously, 5-3 on reveal, remove the abilities from all cards in your opponent's hand. Update 5-3, at the start of turn 6, remove all abilities from cards in your opponent's hand. So this is stopping you from getting it out early. Overall, I think that's fine, but let's also see what the developers got to say. It's never been our goal for Leech to be a heavily played card, and we understand that's been a frustration lately. When it's happening, it usually means a finisher is generically strong against pure power, like Leech Leader. And or a deck can play Leech earlier than turn 5 too often, like Lockjaw Thanos. 100%, that's exactly what we're talking about. We've tried in the past to weaken the stronger cards in those decks, but it's been a balance and design obstacle. Thus, we've decided to remove the early Leech from the equation. Leech is designed to counter some powerful endgame cards and combinations from a unique angle without any setup, which is important to have around in the event those decks begin to overperform. This change should let him fulfill that role when necessary without ever making him a foundational piece of the metagame. So that's awesome. That means even if a Leech comes down early, you can still play your cards. It's just turn 6 that your cards are going to be hit. So they're taking away the early Leech. Lockjaw Thanos obviously is now, well, I mean, once we look at Lockjaw, we'll see what that deck is going to look like. But Leech coming out early now isn't really too much of a big deal. I love that they're keeping them around. They're having the same function. It's disturbing the turn 6 play for your opponent. So overall, I think it's a really good change. I love that they changed it from an on reveal to just a standard ability. So even if you get them out there early, you've got that stacked up, that's saved, and you force your opponent to play different. I think this could be a really good change for Leech. I don't think it makes him any stronger or weaker. I think it's just a solid change. Well, I take that back. It probably makes him weaker because you can't get him out early. But overall, I think his general strength is about the same. So I think we'll see just as much Leech as we always have. And like they said, it's never meant to be heavily played anyway. So overall, I like this change. Next up, we have Lockjaw. So previously 3-2, after you play a card here, swap it with a card in your deck. Update 3-2, after you play a card here, swap it with a card in your deck once per turn. I don't like that. I think that significantly weakens Lockjaw's play. I think, let's see what they got to say, but I think that that hurts a lot. So, Lockjaw is a fun and exciting card, but each trigger of this good boy basically draws a card and generates up to 6 energy at random. Okay, yep. There's a lot of variance to have. That's a lot of variance to have in multiple competitive decks. As we add cards, new and improved ways to sidestep Lockjaw's risk will also become available. Since we believe the most powerful and frustrating use of Lockjaw is triggering him multiple times in a turn, often with a snap along the way, we're changing that. Limiting Lockjaw to one swap each turn forces the player to develop their board without letting them sprint ahead or spring a late surprise. This will make Lockjaw simpler to play against and less potent in decks incidentally playing a lot of cheap cards like Thanos. So yeah, you only get one trigger per turn. I don't know. I think that really, really hurts because a lot of the times, you know, let's say you get him down on 3, right? That means at most you have 3 triggers, which still seems pretty good. But compared to what it has, I think that it's super, super weak. I honestly think that this is going to force him kind of out of most of these decks. And people are going to look to different plays. Instead of, you know, that Lockjaw style. Maybe they'll just go bigger cards with like Jubilee or something like that. But I think this really, really hurts Lockjaw. I like what they're doing, forcing you to have other plays as well. You can't simply rely on dumping 3 cards on the Lockjaw. But if you've got a bunch of small cards like that and you're playing like that Thanos Lockjaw, what are you going to do? You're going to play some of those stones when you want to send them through Lockjaw? I don't know. I don't like this one. I think it really hurts Lockjaw. I think his power level is significantly weaker, and I think he's going to be pushed out. Next up, America Chavez. 6/9. You always draw this card on turn 6 and not before. Update 6/9. Start on the bottom of your deck. Draw this on turn 6. Okay. I don't like this one either. With Chavez, not always, but winding up on the top of your deck more often than not, it allowed you to have a little bit more. Well, I guess you're going to get the same consistent draw, but on turn 6. But one of the added benefits, I play a lot of combo decks, right? And if a Yondu came out and it hit my Chavez, I knew I was probably drawing all the pieces I needed. Now, that's taken away. You still have roughly the same draw, because even though it's on the bottom of your deck, you're still guaranteed to draw it on 6. But I feel like that means you're always drawing it on 6. I know there's cards that could take it from the bottom of your deck, but people aren't running those cards. So overall, I don't really like this change either, but let's see what they've got to say. So previously, if you were about to draw America Chavez, you would just draw your next card instead. This means that over the course of the game, she's a lot more likely to be the top card of your deck. Thus far, this has been largely unimportant outside of Yondu, exactly what we were talking about, but it does restrict our ability to print cards that interact with the top of your deck. Okay, so that makes a little bit more sense. They want to be able to, print cards that affect the top of your deck. To them, as it says here, we expect this update to have little impact on Chavez's functionality overall. It doesn't do a whole lot to her. But, I mean, I guess I could see where they need the design space, so I guess that's okay. I guess that works. I like seeing Chavez discard because that means that in my combo decks, I'm drawing my pieces, but I can get behind this if it means they're adding new interactive cards into the game. So overall, that's fine, I guess. Next up, we have Jubilee. So previously, 4/1 on reveal, add a card from your deck to this location. Update 4/1 on reveal, add the top card of your deck to this location. Developers comment. Some of our players may remember a time where Jubilee had this ability. Yeah, I do. Back then, Jubilee would often be a 4/10 because she'd pull Chavez. Yeah, exactly. 4/10, no problem every single time. We decided at the time to change Jubilee's effect instead of Chavez's, as the former was a much simpler change to communicate. However, we're looking to design cards that interact with the top of your deck in the future, so we're bringing this design back too. We expect this update to have little impact on Jubilee for the time being. So again, they're going to add cards that affect the top of your deck. like they said, this doesn't really change anything right now. Because of the change to Chavez, though, it means you're never pulling Chavez with your Jubilee, so maybe it doesn't make sense to run Chavez in those decks anymore. Previously, you liked to, but now, it doesn't make sense because one of your strong cards is on the bottom. So, yeah, I don't think it changes it much. I think it does, slightly weaken Jubilee because you don't have that chance of pulling Chavez now, but overall, it's not too much of a change. Finally, we have Leader. So, previous 6-7, on reveal, copy all cards your opponent played to the location right of here, but on your side. Update 6-2, on reveal, copy the enemy cards with the highest power played this turn, but on your side. Okay, let's see what they've got to say. We were clearly too harsh on Leader with his previous nerf, and we're dismayed that the action became a go-to example for how ruinous a nerf can be. Okay, so one, that's a very simple sentence, but I think it says a lot. They realized that they completely destroyed Leader, and they're upset that it became an example of what happens to a nerfed card. And the fact that they're upset about that and they recognize it is huge, because it means they care. They care about how this game goes, and they care about how those cards are perceived. They're not just writing it off. All right, Leader's dead, let's just leave him alone. They're actually looking to fix him, and I love that. Our balance philosophy is to preserve as much playability as we reasonably can when weakening cards, and we didn't succeed here previously. Being able to admit your mistakes is huge. I love that they're willing to put that in writing for all of us to see. This team is awesome. With this change, we're aiming to bring his strength back up to a playable spot for a 6-cost card, but still avoid the oppressive impact his original form had. So they remember when he was so bad. They're not reverting him too far. They're bringing him back a little bit, trying to get it so he is actually playable. We have erred on the cautious side with his power for now because some previous defenses against the original Leader, such as playing weaker cards before a strong one, no longer apply. So that totally makes sense, right? So they have his power still fairly low at that too, because now he's just copying the highest cost card or the highest power card that your opponent's playing. Totally makes sense. I love this change, and I love this change more because of what it says about the developers and the state of the game and the health of the game overall. I think it's a huge win that they can go ahead and say, look, we were wrong. We were a little bit too harsh. We're going to bring it back, and we're going to make things right. Overall, I think that's huge. And then next up, we have some bug fixes. Looks like there's quite a few of them. I'll leave this up here real briefly. If you want to pause it, you can go through them. But then we will slide down. We've got a couple more here, and then a known issues list. So I'll leave that up again real briefly in case you guys want to pause again. I don't want to go too far. I want to make sure you guys can read all of them. And I think that is it. So overall, they hit a bunch of cards. But I think, even though I don't like some of the changes, like with Lockjaw and Chavez for personal reasons, because I love those combo decks, I think these are all really good changes. I think it's great for the state of the game, and overall I think it's huge. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you've hung around till now, thank you for hearing me out and hearing my thoughts on this update. Now would also be a really good time to hit that subscribe and like button, as it does help me out. But until next time, have some fun.